Hey folks, welcome to the show. Today we are talking about the rules of productivity. The problem is many of the rules you've been taught are not just wrong, they're actively holding you back. We live in a world of paradoxes where the logical path is often the least effective, and the counterintuitive approach is basically the key to unlocking real progress. We're going to deconstruct the common sense that keeps you stuck and replace that common sense with the paradoxical truth that high achiever use to get ahead. The first and the biggest paradox is about effort itself. You believe that to get more done, you need more work. This is the foundational lie of a hustle culture. The truth is that for knowledge work, your output is not tied to your input. 4 hours of deep focused work is more valuable than 12 hours of distracted, shallow work. The real goal isn't to work longer, it's to work smarter. The paradox: to achieve more, you often have to work less. Now, this leads to Parkinson's law, which states that work expands to fill the time you allot for it. If you give yourself all day to write a report, it will take all day. You will procrastinate, overthink, and perfect it. But if you give yourself strict 90 minutes deadline, you'll be forced to focus on essentials only. The paradox here is that constraint don't limit you. They liberate you by forcing ruthless prioritization. Another paradox of effort is the 80-20 principle. Most people think all tasks are created equal. They make a 20-item to-do list and feel productive as they're checking things off. The truth is that a tiny fraction of your effort, about 20%, will actually generate the 80% of the result. The paradox? Well, it's being busy is the enemy of being effective. The high achiever doesn't try to do everything. They have the courage to identify and focus only on the vital few tasks and ignore all many more tasks. All right, so I think this is the good time to talk about speed. Your instinct is to rush through your work to get it done faster, right? But when you rush, you make mistakes. You miss details, right? You have to go back and fix it later. Now, this creates more works in the long run, right? The Roman Emperor Augustus had a favorite saying. I think I'm going to butcher it, but here, festina lente. So basically, what this is the fastest way to get things done is to be slow, deliberate, and methodical in your approach and in your execution, right? Now, for the mental paradox, you're stuck on a difficult problem, let's say, right? So you try to power through it, right? Staring at your screen for hours. This rarely works. Your brain focus mode is good for executing, but breakthrough often comes from your diffuse mode. The solution? Well, just go for a walk, go take a shower, do something completely unrelated. So the paradox is to solve a hard problem, you often have to stop thinking about it. We believe that a packed schedule is a sign of importance, right? An empty calendar blocks feels like a waste, but an over optimized schedule has no room for opportunity, right? If your calendar is full, there is no room for any opportunity, right? It leaves no space for creativity, deep thoughts, or spontaneous connection. So the paradox is the most productive people have more white spaces on their calendar, not less. The empty time is when most valuable work, thinking actually get done. Let's talk about saying no. Now, your instinct is to be helpful and say yes to every request. But every time you say yes to a low priority task, you are implicitly saying no to your most important work. The paradox of productivity is that you have to say no to good opportunities to have the capacity for great ones. Warren Buffett said, the difference between successful people and a really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. Now let's talk about financial paradox. The common sense advice to save money is to be cheap. Buy the cheapest shoes, the cheapest laptop, the cheapest software. But cheap things breaks. They are slow. They cost you more in the long run through repairs or replacements and wasted time. The paradox is that being cheap is often the most expensive way to live. Investing in high quality tools that saves you time and energy is one of the best investment you can ever make. Now, this leads to another money issue that I usually see is lifestyle inflation. The common sense is that when you earn more, you should live better, right? So you get a raise, you buy a bigger house, a fancier car. But if you really think about this is actually a trap. You become dependent on the high income to support your high expense. The paradox is the fastest way to your financial freedom is to keep your lifestyle the same while your income keep growing up and up, right? The gap between what you earn and what you spend is basically your real power. Now let's shift to mindset. You told that follow your passion is a trap, right? Well, passion is fleeting emotion. What feels exciting today will feel like work tomorrow. The paradox is that passion is a result, not a cause. Well, don't follow your passion, follow your aptitude. Get exceptionally good at something that provides value. The mastery, respect, and success you gain from that skill will create a deep, lasting passion. Here's another one, the fear of failure. Common sense says to avoid failure at all cost, right? But if you are not failing, you're not trying anything difficult, to be honest. You're living in your comfort zone, right? That your brain made in your, yeah. The paradox is that the only way to guarantee long-term failure is to never fail at anything. Failure is not an opposite of success. It's a stepping stone to it. It's the data. It's learning, basically. Your failure is your learning. We are often told to be positive and avoid negative thought, right? But suppressing your negative thought is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes a huge amount of energy and eventually it will pop up with even more force, right? The paradox of mental health is that you have to be willing to sit with your negative emotions to move past them, acknowledge them, understand their signal, and then you have to let them go. Now, let's talk about knowledge. The common sense idea is that the more books you read, the more videos you watch to learn anything, the more you'll achieve, right? But for many, learning becomes a form of procrastination. It feels like progress, but it involves zero risk. The paradox is that in the age of infinite information, the person who acts on just good enough information will always beat the person who's just waiting for the right or perfect information or perfect time. So just don't wait, just do the act, okay? And finally, the ultimate paradox of success. You think that achieving your big goal will finally make you happy. Well, you get the promotion, right? You launch the business, you make the money, and then you feel good. But you can only feel good for a day. Then you're back to your baseline. Well, the paradox is that the goal isn't to achieve your goal. Hear me out. The goal isn't to achieve the goal. The goal is to become the type of the person who can achieve that goal. The journey, the struggle, the skill you build along the way, that's the real reward for you. I'll see you guys in the next one.